Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday with Encon Electronics and today's wonderful guest hosts, Doorking. Ron Miller down, I don't know where he is on your screen, but on my screen, he's over here. Ron Miller will be leading this, and Lamar Jackson, our local rep. They're going to take you through the Doorking Cloud, and they've got a lot of fantastic information, and you're going to really like this. It's something that you're going to use coming very quickly. You're going to be using this. So we're going to keep doing this every Wednesday for the next several months. We're booked out. So join us for different webinar Wednesdays. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the wonderful Doorking people. All right, guys, it's all you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for allowing us some time today to work on this. And what we wanted to talk about today was a new program we have available called the Doorking Cloud. As we work through the webinar today, you should have on your screen a little toolbar, and it has a question and answer button. If you can use that to pose questions, we'll be pausing throughout the webinar to address some questions. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll have an open mic forum where we can, if you want to have some more discussion on the product, we can get into that. But what we really want to talk about today is introduce you to the Doorking Cloud, which is basically a different way to manage your Doorking database. And what it's really doing, it's taking the software out of your computer and moving it into the cloud. There's a lot of advantages to that. You don't need anything on your computer, no apps or software programs. It's accessible from any browser. And you think about today, the new normal everybody's talking about. In today's world, people work differently, right? So on Monday, a manager was on a long weekend, but she had her MacBook with her and she could add a resident's new cell phone number. He picked up a new cell phone number. On Wednesday, a manager's in the office and they're doing some programming of move-ins and move-outs. On Thursday, a virtual agent at corporate signed contracts electronically, and she was able to add the new residents into the Doorking system. Friday, somebody was at home working on her Fire tablet or a Google tablet, doing some work on the Doorking database. Saturday, residents texted and said, hey, can you hold the gates open? We're having a little barbecue this afternoon. The manager was at the park. She had her iPad with her. She did the scheduling. That's what the cloud does. You can access the Doorking database from anywhere, from any device, at any time. And everybody's working on the same database. It's not like today's program where everybody has their computers. This database is hosted on the cloud. It's hosted by Microsoft Azure, which is a very safe format for our data storage. It's redundant, it's backed up, it's a very secure database. So remember Doorking systems, we provide telephone entry and card access functions around the property, right? And it's important to understand that our entry system is basically standalone in operation. What I mean by that is it works from the internal database inside the 1830 series phone. There's a lot of new systems coming out that are what you would call cloud-based. And the problem with that is if they lose their internet connection, they lose functionality because they have to access the database. That's not what we're doing. If Doorking loses our internet connection, we still work, just like it does today. There's no change in the entry system at all to work with the cloud. If you think about today's database, we have our PC software, and when you want to make a change, you send data to the entry system, right? The problem with PC software is the entry system is going to work by itself. It works independently off the database. But if you want to make a change, you have to go back to the computer to make the change, right? What if you have more than one computer program? You're in Encon, you got 7 guys there doing programming. That means when I have multiple systems doing the programming, the true database is really now in the entry system. So on your computer, you have to receive data, make changes, and send data. Somebody else on it, if they have a second computer, they have to have the software on the computer. They would have to receive data and send data. It makes it very complicated to maintain the database with multiple people. Also, because it's on your computer, if something happens to your computer, if you get that blue screen of death, your software is gone, right? Viruses, malware problems, it doesn't work on a Mac or a tablet. So what we're doing is taking the software off your computer, moving it to the cloud. All right, it's hosted in the cloud. Nothing changes in your entry system, but you can now access it from any browser. If you have 2 or 3 or 5 computers accessing it, they're all working with the same database. It uses an internet browser, so you can use it from a Mac or an Apple, iOS, or Android tablets, smartphones. I think it works best on a tablet or a computer for main programming, just due to the screen size, but you can access it. I've accessed it through my Android and my iPhone. The screen size is a little small, but you can make minor changes to it pretty easily. Now, one thing we have to understand, the true database is now in the cloud, not in your entry system, all right? The true database is in the cloud. That means that you need, sorry about that. You need to be able to access the cloud for all changes to your database. Changes made at the entry system don't work anymore. There's no received data because the cloud is the true database. So if I make a change on the entry system from the keypad, it'll be overwritten when you send data from the cloud. If I make a change from a computer I plug in, it'll be overwritten when you send data from the cloud. So you need to make sure all your programming is done in the cloud. And that's a little different for technicians, because from a technician point of view, if you see something you want to change, you need to change that in the cloud. Now, the owner of the system can give you access to the cloud for a technician, but I need to make changes in the cloud. However, it does give you a lot of new tools for troubleshooting, all right? If you're using a tablet, a laptop, or your phone, you can pull up the database from your office, from the job site. You can look at transactions, you can look at skill level system settings, data transfer history. You can see all that information right there and see where the problems might be. Again, the owner determines who has access. To access the cloud, you have to have a username on the DK server, online services. But then they can turn that on through the cloud. All right, does that make sense? Do we have any questions yet? I don't see any questions on there. If there's no questions, let me just check the chat real quick.
No questions so far, Ron.
I saw a hand raised by somebody. Let's see. Carlos had a question. Let me see if I can. Carlos, if you unmute your microphone, you could ask your question.
I did already, Ron. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Ron. What I wanted to ask you is, what about if you're already paying, like your access to the intercoms right now? Is this one going to switch to the DKS Cloud, or it's going to be a different fee they're going to be paying for this?
That's a great question. You have to be using one of our services, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation, how you log into that. Matter of fact, we're going to get to that right now. So, but it is part of one of our online services. So I'll explain that in just a few minutes, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so to get to the cloud, you go to access.doorking.com. And you might have to put in this HTTPS:// I had to do that on my computer. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That will log you into the cloud. And the cloud is similar to our desktop software, but a little bit different. The cloud's going to show systems that you have turned on that are enabled for the cloud. Either you own these systems or somebody else gave you access to these systems. Now, I don't really add systems to the cloud from this screen. I have to go to my registration site, the IM server or the DK Cellular registration site. So when you go log into your Doorking IM server account, it's going to show you a list of accounts that you're paying for, whether it's cellular or VoIP or IM server modem. And we've added a field here that says if you have the systems activated for the cloud or if they're turned off. So you select which systems you want to activate on the cloud. And the way you do that is the same way you would change a master code. You click on an account name and it opens up a window here. This is where I could change the name of the system or the master code. There's a new box that says enable for the cloud. If I check that box and click on update, that system is now going to be enabled for the cloud. Now, currently, this has to be done by Doorking. Because we're in a test release, an expanded test release, this is still in development. We continue to make little tweaks and changes to it. But if you have a system you want to try on the cloud, just let us know the phone number or master code. We can turn that on, and then it will be activated for the cloud. When you log into the cloud, you will see that system under your username. This is also the same area where the owner of the system can grant access for technicians or for office staff. So they click on a system and you can add a username down here that will have access to it. Okay, and then that will show up. So let me show you what this looks like. So I'm going to switch screens here for a little bit. If I go to my IM server account, and I have a lot of systems I registered, and I take this system right here called Cloud Test, and I click on it, I can enable it for the cloud, and I update that. And then this system is owned by RM Cellular, but I could give another user access to it. So I want to give Ron Miller Demo an access to this system. So I'm going to put the username in there, and this has to be a username for the IM server. And I add that user ID. Now, if I go to the cloud and I log in, it will show accounts that I own, but it also shows this new account that I just added, One Cloud Test. When I go to the system information screen, one of the things you notice that's different, I cannot change the master code or the phone number or my connection type here in the cloud. I have to do that through my IM server management screen. Also, I added this system to the cloud, but there's no residence for it. All I did was list this system in the cloud. So now I would have to either add residence from scratch, so start programming from scratch, or if I have the database in my desktop software, I can convert that to the cloud. So if you have an existing desktop software with that test account, I can convert that to the cloud. To do this, you need to download our newest version of software. It's called 6.5 software. You can download that from our website. When you load it, you will need to uninstall 6.4. I always recommend doing a backup before I uninstall it. The way we wrote our program, you can uninstall 6.4 and install 6.5, and it will not erase your databases. It only erases or changes the executable file. But I'm a conservative guy. I want to make sure that I have a backup just in case. In the new software, there's a new field called Convert and Export to Cloud. When I click on that, it brings up a list of accounts. Now notice some of these accounts are highlighted. We are only compatible with services going through the IM server. So if you're using an RS-232 connection, if you're still using a modem to modem connection, or you've manually configured the network, that is not compatible with the cloud. I need to make sure that it's one of the systems going through the cloud.
Ron, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
The question from Mandy is, adding a user, does the new user need to have an account, or how do you add the user?
Okay, that's a great question. So the user has to have registered on the IM server. So if I, let me see if I can do this here. If I log out, so you have to have a username on the IM server. If you do not, if you're new, I would click here on the IM server login and you create a username. It doesn't matter which one it is, cellular or VoIP. And one of the advantages of the cloud is I can see both types of systems under the same database in the cloud. But you would have to create a username. So you'd put in a name and contact information, create a user ID and a password, and then you can log in. You don't have to be paying for any systems. You just have to have access to the cloud. It's the same thing you need when you register the Doorking software. If you go to the Doorking software, you have a registration with a username on there. If you've registered your software, it's that same username and password that you log in for. Hopefully that answered your question on that. So again, to export to the cloud, you would select an account. That brings you to a save screen. You have to save that account. And there's a default name. It's called Cloud Export with a date code, a time date stamp. I like to save it to my desktop because it's easy to find. You could save it to your documents or wherever. Then you save the file. And it's important to understand this is not a normal import-export file like you might have used in the past. This is a special cloud export. It has everything. It has your time zones, your notes, your security levels, your hold open. It has all the data from your software. So it creates this special file. Then I would log into the cloud. And in the cloud, under the action menu, I would say convert from 6.5. This is going to open your conversion screen, which tells you what we're going to do. We're going to upload a CSV file, then we're going to convert it. If I click on Start It and click Upload CSV file, it brings me to my computer. I'd have to go to my desktop and select the file. That's going to go through an upload process. Then you would convert that to make it a cloud file. I know this sounds complex, but it's pretty easy to do. You might get an error code. One of the things we do is we sort everything by phone number master code. So for example, your master code in your desktop software is different than what's on the IM server, you get an error message. Okay, let me do a live version of this. So I have my desktop software here, and I want to take my cloud demo and export that to the cloud. I have to make sure the phone number and master code are correct. I would go to the action menu, export account to the cloud, and I would select cloud demo. I could select multiple accounts if I wanted to. Click OK. And that's going to ask me, where do I want to save this account? I'm going to save it to my desktop. And I'm going to call it Cloud Export Encon. Just because I have a lot of accounts and make it easier for me to find. So that created the export file. Now I would go to the cloud, click on the action menu and upload database conversion file. That opens this conversion screen. I want to start the conversion process and upload my CSV file. That takes me to my computer, and I save it on my desktop, and I want to call it Encon Cloud Export Encon. When I open that file, you saw the upload took a couple seconds. Now I'm going to convert that file to create the cloud database. It takes a couple seconds. I don't have an error message. I have file conversion complete. Now when I go into the cloud, under Cloud Test, I have a resident file. That's how easy it is to move it from desktop software to resident file. So if I look at my cloud database here, it's similar but different from 6.4. When I go to my account screen, one thing we added is the account contact or the system phone number and master code. Just makes it easy for you to find systems. On the system information screen, there's a new field that's called time zone. You need to set the time zone of the entry system. I don't know if the entry panel is in New York or Dallas or Hayward. So I would need to set where my system is, Pacific time zone. And then I have to save. Save, 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 always save. If I try to go somewhere else, it'll say, wait a minute, you didn't save this file. Make sure you save it. My resident screen is similar from 6.4, but a little bit different. For example, if a resident has more than one card or device code, it doesn't show all the device codes here. But if you move your mouse over this plus sign, it will show additional codes. There's all the additional codes. When you want to edit a resident, you click on a resident and it shows his information. So on Dusty here, if I wanted to add an entry code of 3455, and save, it gives Dusty an entry code of 3455. If I want to give Dusty some cards, I have to click up here to add a device. That opens up a window here where I can add card numbers, 43344. Add that, and it adds a device code for Dusty. If I want to add a new resident, I click on Add Resident up here, and it opens up a blank field here where I can enter all the resident information. And there's always a save button. Save everywhere you go. If I go to the hold open screen, I can create hold open schedules. Notice we added a relay table over here. So if I named a relay, I have the names of that relay over here so I can easily identify which relays I'm holding open. And again, when you make a change, I need to save it. The reason for the save button You may have multiple people doing programming on a system. If Ron and Lamar are both doing programming, I don't know which person did the programming last. When I click send data, it's going to send the most recently saved database. So for example, if Lamar just added a name and he hits save, when Ron sends data, it's going to send that database that Lamar just saved. And we have an error message here, time span cannot pass midnight. Well, that's a bad time. Let's call this 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Your relay control screen, this shows the status of the relays for live relay control. Your security level screen is going to show security levels. And again, on the security level screen, we added, my system is thinking here, it doesn't like whatever I just clicked on. Must be my internet connection, busy with all the video that we have going on here, right? So the cloud software is pretty easy to work with. Resident screens, a little bit different because I need to point my mouse over that to see additional card numbers. I have to click on add a resident or add a device to add those. There's the time zone that I need to enter in there. Hold open screens, security level screens. We have the relay table on there to help you do your programming. Remember one thing, we have about 100 people using the cloud, 100 systems using the cloud right now. The biggest mistake we found is that when people save, they think it's saving it to the entry system. Save is just saving to the cloud database. I still need to send data. Save does not send. I need to send data to get it down to the entry panel. I had a customer saying, I keep adding residents and saving them and they never show up in the entry system because he never sent data. So that's the one mistake that we've been seeing people make with the cloud. Send data to apply the changes. And remember, there's no received data, so all your programming has to be done in the cloud. Currently, we're in this test release. We're trying to get more and more people using the cloud. It's a very safe and secure system. We haven't had any glitches or bugs that affect the database. What we're doing is we're still trying to change the user interface. So if you find things that you'd like us to add, features, buttons, like we added a send data to all the screens. So any screen I'm in, I can send data, things like that. There's a couple of features that are not available yet. For example, the self-storage interface is not quite available yet. We're still working on that. So there's some things that 6.4 is not ready for. It is only available and compatible with our online services, DK Cellular, DK VoIP, data over IP, or IM server modem. If you're using one of the direct connections, it's not compatible with that. This is going to be a fee-based service. There'll be a small add-on fee to your monthly charges if you want to use the cloud. We're going to provide it free throughout the balance of 2020 because we want people to get used to it, to use it, to feel comfortable with it. And remember, we're still going to continue making the PC software. If somebody doesn't want to pay for programming, they can still use 6.4 or 6.5 software. But we feel there's a lot of advantages to going with the cloud. Okay. Any questions that we can answer for you at this time? And again, if you want to use the cloud, if you want to try it out, give us a call, email me, rmiller@doorking.com. We can get your systems turned on. We can get your tech set up to work on your systems. I need the phone number, master code, and I think you're really going to like it. We have had customers. I had a customer call me just last week. He was at a job site in Malibu. He just put in a new system. The HOA president guy came down with a MacBook, and my guy Scott said, sorry, that won't work. You have to have a computer. And the guy said, well, then pull out the system. I ain't going to work with no computer. I'm a Mac guy. So he called me up. In about 10 minutes, we got him set up on the cloud. The customer was happy as could be. He said, this is great because we have 4 different people in our HOA to do programming. Now we're all working from the same database. They're very happy with it. It's pretty easy to set up, pretty easy to work with. And I think you're going to like working with it. Try it. You'll like it. Any questions I can answer for anybody? I know I'm not that good of an explainer, so there must be some questions out there. Nope, quiet group, huh?
Yeah, no questions on my end.
Again, the cloud is available now. It's ready to rock and roll. We have many people using the cloud as we speak, and more people every day are using it. I'm pretty excited about it. We do want to get people testing it because we keep finding little things that we can change or play around with on it. You know, one of the things we found is in the history, when you look at the history account, if there's an active data transfer that's going on, it will show you the activity here, and it might say dialing unit in process, 80% done, completed. So that's a new feature that we added to it. We have a question. Is there any charge on the test? There's no charges, no. Right now, the service is free. In January, there'll be an add-on fee to your registration, and we're still working out the details on that, exactly how it's going to be applied. It's a few dollars a month for the cloud service. You can have as many people working on it as you would like at this point through the end of 2020. All right, well, I thank you for joining us today. Will this need to be done for each account at a property? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So the way we do it is in the entry systems. If you look at my list of entry systems here, some of them are turned off, some of them are turned on. So you would activate each system that you want to use on the cloud. You may have some systems. Let's go to a different account here. I may have some systems that I want to use the cloud and some systems I don't want to use the cloud. So if I'm not going to use the cloud, I just disable it. If I have a system on the cloud and I want to turn it off, I can just uncheck the box and now it's not accessible through the cloud. So it's pretty easy to add or delete. I can turn on a system as soon as you give me the phone number master code. I might have to look it up. If you don't know the username, I have to look it up. So that takes a couple minutes, but when I get the email, we can turn it on pretty quickly. Okay. So if I look at Lamar's account here, Lamar has one system on the cloud. It's pretty easy to set up. I want to thank Encon for the time and this opportunity to work with you guys. I know we probably blasted through that in less time than we had allotted for us.
Quite all right. We really appreciate your time. I mean, this is something that is going to be used by everyone very soon. It's just too simple not to use it. It makes a lot of sense. Everything is moving to the cloud nowadays, and I'm so glad that you guys are on the forefront of this and ready to roll with this.
Well, you know, it's just the fact that everybody can access it from anywhere. I mean, people aren't at work all the time anymore. I mean, I work from home. People work from home. They work from wherever they're at. You know, I had a property manager say what they do is they sign contracts right on their iPads. And at the same time, they use their iPad to move them into the database. It's pretty slick.
It's slick. It's very cool. And it's what we're all going to be doing soon enough. So we have to get ready for it. And here we go. Doorking's ready.
Ready. And there's no change needed at the entry system itself. Backwards compatible. All right. Well, thank you guys for your time. And I look forward to doing some more of these Wednesday webinars.
Thanks again, Ron, Lamar. Really appreciate your time, both of you, and everyone that joined us. You know, look at our website. You can see all of the different ones. Doorking will be doing another one here in just a few weeks. And there we go. This is the new way to learn. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you again for joining. Thanks again, Lamar, Ron. Really appreciate you guys.
All right. And again, if anybody is interested, email me or get in touch with Encon. They know how to get hold of me, and we'll get you set up.